Hello, and welcome to The Gathering, a magic podcast. My name's Stanley, and I'm here with some of my best friends to talk to you about our favorite game, Magic the Gathering. And today is a really fun day to be recording an episode. We just had Regional Championship Bologna finish up. Always exciting to get to review how all the decks did, get a little data, see what's what. And it's especially exciting because most of us will be going to RC Minneapolis next weekend. So really timely and convenient to get a bunch of good data and see what we can maybe expect to see next weekend. So today's episode, we're going to talk about Bologna, we're going to talk about Minneapolis, and we'll talk about both the decks we're going to play, the decks we expect to play against, and some tips for navigating regional championships if you haven't been to one of those yet, or maybe you just want to level up your game on that front. But excited to start with a quick ad as we have gotten our first sponsor. So I'm not going to cut to some weird ad. I'm just going to talk about how cool FlexSlot is, which if you've been around me or my content at all, you know that I like FlexSlot a lot. That's flexslot.gg. I use them for all my deck lists. I use it for all my sideboard guides. It's really convenient. I love it. It's great for content. It's great as a player. I on the deck list, the thing I like most is very superficial, but I love making the little pictures of my deck because I can custom move around the cards. I feel like the Goldfish ones always put at least one card in some horrible spot, so I love being able to do that. And the sideboard guides are great. It's just a really convenient way to set up your plans, have them available online to yourself and whomever else you want to share the link with, and you can print out the guide too, take it with you to the regional championship. So yeah, thank you FlexSlot, and without further ado, we're going to talk about RC Bologna, where Is It Prowess dominated, which is really cool. The Prowess finals was really exciting for me, and despite Force Stock Up being in almost every list, and that not being my personal favorite way to build the deck, I do really like the winning build. I thought Jelko built the deck in an extremely logical way. I think it makes a ton of sense. It looks great. He absolutely played well, built well, and deserved the win. I think if I wanted to play Force Stock Up, I would absolutely copy his main deck in a heartbeat. But that's enough for me. I've said so many words in a row. Jacob, you promised me you emailed yourself some data and you're ready, so I want to hear from you first. Jacob's on mute.
Oh, my bad. Sorry. Well, anyways, hi, I'm Jacob. I got a bunch of data from, it's not my data, it's from Frank Karsten. So shout out Frank Karsten for doing all the math and figuring everything out. But Is It Prowess topped the tournament, won the tournament finals, was Is It v Is It, but it also had a conversion rate of 55%, close to 56% for its win rate. With Jeskai Oculus coming in just under 54.6%, so I'll round up to 55%.
A win rate, not a conversion rate, right?
Yeah, win rate, sorry.
Okay, 56% conversion rate would be terrifying.
I think, I'm pretty sure the day 2 conversion rate was just at 20%, so you had about a 1 in 5 chance of converting to day 2, and I think that was 1,100 players, if I remember correctly.
16.4% conversion rate. It
Okay.
did have the best conversion rate. Wait, nope, I'm wrong. That's wrong. I'll keep scrolling. You go back to talking.
And Is It Prowess made up 16.8% of the metagame going into the tournament, with, Mono Red being right under it by 5% at 11%, Esper Pixie at 0.5 under that. So kind of expected that. Pixie is known to be very good against the aggro decks. What I didn't expect, and I saw a bunch of on Twitter, was so many people registering Azorius Omniscience, which I know the deck is very good. It's very strong. It's stronger now that you can play 4 stock up. You get to play the new Blue Dragon. Um, what the name of it is, Meringue River Regent / the Coil and Catch, which is just kind of like an alternate win condition and helps you dig, and also you can put an Omniscience in your graveyard with it because you have to discard off the Coil and Catch portion. Yeah, I mean, I watched as much coverage as I could. The fact that coverage started at like 4 a.m. Eastern time was something that like I was not getting up to watch, but I would always catch like the tail end. And I watched the semifinal, where it was the winner, um, Jelko versus Demir Midrange. So Michael. Um, and it was a very good match. It just sucked that, in the pivotal turn for Demir midrange, like they needed to draw a 5th land that was untapped to Gix's command, and they just didn't have it. If they had it, game would have been. I'm not gonna say the game's gonna be over, but it seemed very much would be in the Demir midrange player's favor. But I kind of checked out, had some other things going on, didn't watch the final. But for anyone who did, heard it was a good match. So. If it is, in fact, the deck to beat coming into Minneapolis, which I was talking to some friends on the West Coast who are preparing for Minneapolis, and something that I've noticed a lot about Western big tournaments is the United States loves their control decks. So there is a high chance that I'm expecting a lot of Jeskai control and blue-white control, just because everyone loves control decks over here, and they're both very, very good decks. So I would prepare accordingly for that. So if you think you have a weak matchup, which I believe it does kind of have a weak matchup versus Jeskai, then you should be prepared for that.
Yeah, and I found those conversion rates so we can fill that out. So yeah, Jeskai Oculus, top conversion rate at 20.7, and Izzet Pro is just under that at 19.6. Interestingly, Jeskai Control only 11.5%. Azorius Control just 9%. But that said, I think what people love to play oftentimes trumps the numbers. So, I would agree that West Coast loves control. It's going to be there. It's going to show up at every tournament. You're going to have to play against it. I think sometimes people read the numbers and go like, this deck got destroyed by this deck. Nobody's going to play that deck anymore. They are. They spent money on it. They spent time to master it. Like, something pretty significant needs to happen to get someone to pivot. So I think we'll still see pretty diverse meta and a lot of people playing what they love, but also, yeah, Izzet is top dog. A lot of people have pivoted to Izzet for sure. Nick, you want to say hi?
Hello.
Hey,
You kind of caught me off the guard there.
Oh, got him.
Well, I guess I'll insert Bologna thoughts. I mean, I think my biggest surprise from the tournament was 2 Demir mid-ranges being in the top 8. I was, me and Julianne were playing Arena last week, and I even made the joke. She was playing against, classic Demir mid-range from 4 months ago, and I was like, oh, you won't have to worry about this deck. That no one's playing Enduring Curiosity anymore, and then the deck not only has a pretty significant play rate, but it also puts 2 into the top 8, which can't be said about Pixie or Demir Bounce, which was another surprising thing, how neither of those decks even top 32 the tournament. So, yeah, I mean, a big surprise
no
that...
top 32 for...
Yeah, we checked. No top 32s for Esper, Pixie, or Demir Mid. I think the highest placing one was 40th or something like that. So,
Yeah, that I didn't know that. That's
mhm.
sick. I mean, I agree. Demir mid range, 2 copies top 8 was shocking. No
Yeah.
copies of Demir bounce or Esper bounce in top 32. Equally shocking. That's crazy.
Demir
Yeah.
midrange also won the the standard open in Bologna as
Oh
well.
shit. That's
Yeah, I don't think it's
crazy.
too much of a surprise when you think about the decks that exist right now. I mean, Esper Pixie and Demir Bounce just can't beat the card Choristo Cutter if it gets cast against them. Whereas, like, Demir midrange can at least put on a much better aggro game plan, I feel like, than the other decks can. I mean, flash in, play 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop, and then Enduring Curiosity, and you're set to aggro them out if need be. So I don't think it's too surprising that Pixie did poorly, I think, but it is a little surprising how good Demir Midrange did do,
I think
for
Demir
me
has a
at
very
least.
good ability to punish people when they stumble by like
Mm-hmm.
how efficient their ability to curve out is. So like there's a lot of draws I've noticed in my testing for Hartford with Is It where it's like sometimes you draw the combination of cards that you need but in the wrong order. So you kind of have to do these weird things whereas like all of Demir's cards are like very linear on how you play them. So it's like they just kind of get to do what they want and you're in this weird puzzle and sometimes you're going to get punished for it just because they have these cards that are always lining up how they want.
Yeah, Demir's always a safe choice. It's very consistent at what it's doing. I mean, you have 10 removal spells that all do the same thing. You have 10 flash threats that all do the same thing. You have your Preacher and, sometimes shield your top end. This clean mana base, lands that have text. I mean, if you just want a deck that's consistent and won't lose to itself like some other decks in Standard do, Demir's definitely the deck for that.
Once upon a time, you won an RCQ with Demir mid range. You gonna pivot?
Talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you.
When?
Like I don't know, a year or two ago. Didn't
Oh, I forgot I did that. Yeah, I forgot I did that actually. I did, I guess. Yeah. I
back
mean,
back when I was playing Godric and Volder
yeah.
Epicure, you
I
were
was.
playing.
Yeah. I was thinking 5 months ago. I was like, I don't think I played a single game of Dimir midrange this
No.
standard season. But no, yeah, I guess yeah, last standard season I was the Esper midrange, Dimir midrange player. No, I mean I like the deck back then, but I honestly think I don't like these new versions of Dimir. I'd rather be
Yeah.
the one casting monstrous rage than the one trying to beat it.
Yeah. Ask the questions. Ask the questions.
Exactly.
Yeah. Demir's good. Actually, unironically, like my first. Well, the first time I fired up Arena after Tarkir was legal. Corey Still Cutter just like ran over everyone. But then the second time, I ran into like 2 Demir mid range in a row. And on turn 2, I'm like, haha, Corey Still Cutter's free. Good luck, idiot. And they're like, Phantom Interference?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
damn. That is a standard legal card that I didn't realize people were playing.
Yeah, and the Dimir midrange deck that at least one of them that top aided was playing intimidation tactics in their deck, which is I think it's a Dreams of Steel and Oil, but has cycling, if I'm pretty sure.
It's you choose an artifact or creature that gets discard or that gets put into exile, and it has cycling, and it's 1 cost.
Okay, so yeah, it's a Dreams of Steel and Oil, but cycling. So I guess it's just they'd rather be able to discard it when it's bad than exile
Me
someone from the
too.
yard, which I guess is a fair take. But
I remember when this card got spoiled being a little bit angry that, like, why are we power creeping good black cards? But then nobody played it, so I was like, huh. But,
yeah,
I mean, I think it makes a ton of sense. Like, cycling seems great because when you top deck these guys late, they're just like dead cards, which is part of the risk. But putting cycling on it takes away that risk. But what I mean to say is that if you play black cards and you're listening, Intimidation Tactics is a horrible card. Don't look it up. Don't buy it. Don't worry about it. That's what I meant to say. Ron, you got any thoughts about Bologna?
It's a good sandwich with American cheese. No, No,
But
I watched a little bit of it. I did see the finals. I thought that was a good match. Um, yeah, some of the decks that were there. Um, I mean, it was a very aggro top eight, and as an aggro kind of guy, I like seeing that, to be honest. And I did just look at the super that they had on Sunday, just shy of uh, just shy of 600, and it was Demir, Azorius, Is It, Abzan, Is It, Pixie, uh, Is It, and Gruul Aggro for the top eight on that. So
wait, sorry, I'm sorry. What is this?
the Sunday Super, the all standard open that they do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's all the washouts.
Yes, yes.
Been
Everyone
there,
scrubbed
done
out of day one.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
But still, I mean,
that sounds very
like
diverse.
I said, it was almost 600 people, and it's an interesting top eight over there as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, looking at the data, 27% of the format was Is It Prowess and Mono Red Aggro, but below that, we really have a ton of diversity in it. I think that we're seeing the Is It Prowess decks get more and more tempo-y to where there's definitely a non-zero percentage of them that you can hardly even call aggro decks. There was Thundertrap Trainer, Monstrous Rageless, Is It Prowess running around, which, like, believe you me, I'm a Thundertrap Trainer enjoyer, so it looks cool. Like, do I want to try the Thundertrap Trainer this town blue-red Is It build? I do. Looks cool. But obviously you're taking a different gear, so not to get into the people complaining about aggro and monstrous rage, but I would hate to see the Is It numbers be super inflated with like both aggro and non-aggro builds, and everyone just like continue their like tirade against poor old monstrous rage who did nothing wrong.
Gotta love the rage.
I wouldn't say that, but I would say that the most oppressive Monstrous Rage decks are the ones that are playing it in combination with Heartfire Hero, and those decks are just not that good right now.
Can you watch yourself a little bit?
You have Heartfire Hero in your deck. What's the...
Yeah, exactly. He said they're not very good right now.
Oh, that's true. You're right. Now I get it. Well,
Chill, I'm registering Heartfire Hero and
It'll
Monstrous
be
Rage.
very contradictory when I'm asked the question, what would you have registered for Minneapolis?
I was gonna say
if
you
you
were
were
gonna
going.
say mono red anyway.
Yeah, alright.
No, I mean it came up on Discord, and I've kind of been saying like Leyline is one of those decks that like it's the circle of standard. Leyline does really well. Everybody like tries it, everybody forgets about it, and then once everybody forgets about it, pow, Leyline does really well again. So I wouldn't be surprised if Leyline snuck in and did something really diabolical next weekend, especially with Mr. Spotlight himself piloting the deck again. So definitely don't count out Heartfire Hero and Monstrous Rage. That's for sure. Mono Red's good too. But Evan, what did you think about Bologna?
Well, it made me feel really good about the deck I pivoted to last minute.
Yeah.
I was with Mr. Spotlight until yesterday with him on Leyline, but then I decided to switch to Jeskai Oculus, which had 7 appearances in the top 32, which makes me feel very good about it. Deck's got a lot of play, a lot of Phoenix vibes, a lot of decision points. I mostly just need to remember not to discard my lands.
That deck is seriously scary to play against. Like, it clocks you so well and so efficiently. Like, it is by far the best Fear of Missing Out deck that I have played. Like, and I played Hollowwood for a little bit last Modern season. I haven't really been playing that much Modern recently, but like anytime I see someone resolve a FOMO, I just ask them And if it's in person, I was like, hey, can I see your graveyard? And anytime it's online, I immediately check their graveyard. I was like, oh no, I'm so dead. Especially when they just like play FOMO, play props, play like reanimate a Steam core, and it's just like, okay, well I'm just getting like hit for 12, and they have these massive blockers that I can't get through. Like deck is extremely scary, and I'm really happy to see a lot of the Jeskai Oculus players start pivoting over to Marauding Mako. I think that card is a perfect fit for that deck, and I just like how late in the game it also cycles. So if it's a dead draw late in the game, it can add to your Delirium. Yeah, worst comes to worst, you can reanimate it if you really want to. Um, More fodder for my Ghost Vacuums, I guess.
Yeah, but that Sheltered by Ghost card is pretty bad. They should probably stop registering that one.
We've been playtesting with a lot of one of Sheltered by Ghosts in the main deck. It's very fun for me when it comes up.
Don't put that curse out there. Don't encourage people like that.
Yeah, I don't know why our friend just started convincing everyone to play one Shelter by Ghost in their main deck. It's like the most random idea ever. It's like, oh, I just really like it.
And
what's the
they're
point?
no longer a friend.
Yeah, right. Sorry, Falcon.
Yeah, Oculus had the #1 conversion rate to day 2, so I am not excited to play against the deck, but I am excited to see Evan pivot over to it, because Evan loves to have fun, and it didn't feel like Evan was having a lot of fun playing Leyline. Definitely not as much fun as Nick and I have playing the deck, so I'm glad that Evan found a standard deck that is fun and also good, because his last fun deck was a little sauce. But we won't dig into that. But
Yeah, the
Julianne,
deck seems like a lot of fun. It's got a lot of Breach vibes, where it's got like just the free win when you reanimate the Oculus, but then also the fair game plan where you just profs them to death.
yeah, I hate it. Hey, Julianne.
Hello. So I think Bologna was kind of like no surprise, in the sense that Is It Prowess was the most played deck and was obviously the deck to beat. I mean, ever since Corey Steelcutter got released, that's been pretty much known to the world. So that wasn't surprising, but I do appreciate the variety of decks that got top 32. I mean, there were a lot of, like, there were the two Demir players that got top 8. There was a Golgari player. There was a Celestia Cage player. A Boros Monument player. There was, I think, another, like, one of a deck that like a Gruul Mice that like all of these individuals got top 36 and qualified for the Pro Tour. And I think it just goes to show that if you can kind of anticipate the meta, can master a deck that you enjoy playing, you know how to sequence right, like you don't have to play the most played deck or the, quote unquote, like tier 0, tier 1 deck to do well in a big tournament like these.
This is the part where if I was better at content, I would replay the clip from the last podcast where you were like, my hot take is that Domain, Mice, and Bounce will be in top 8, but then there's going to be 3 other decks. So obviously that was for Minneapolis, not Bologna. So I'm curious, 1, did I get that right? And then 2, obviously, even though somebody was saying, is it Corey Steelcutter is going to be insane? We didn't know for sure yet, so that wasn't part of your prediction. But I'm curious how Bologna has affected your prediction.
I honestly don't remember exactly what I said, but I think you summed it up pretty well. And I feel like I got half of it right. I mean, 1 Domain player made top 8. there were
Albert, let's go. Good job.
there were the two Demir players. I would consider that to be an other, and kind of fell
okay.
off the radar. And the rest of the decks were aggro of some variety. So I don't know if Bologna changes my prediction for Minneapolis. I am a little surprised that no Jeskai list made top 8, and I'm counting Jeskai Oculus and Jeskai Control and Jeskai list. There were a lot of Jeskai color builds in top 32, top 36, etc., but not meeting the top 8 mark is a little surprising to me, and I feel like we could very easily see at least one of those decks get to top 8 in Minneapolis.
Yeah, I'm pulling up the meta breakdown day 1, the official graphic. Domain Overlords and Dimir Midrange were not one of the decks in the 175 for other. Unfortunately, they did make the page, but as you already called out, top 32 definitely had some highlight other decks. So that's still, great to see. Do you think a true other is going to crack top 8 in Minneapolis?
I hope so, just because I am a true other deck enjoyer. So I would love to see someone come up with something that they've been cooking up behind the scenes and just, take Minneapolis by storm. But it's hard to say. I mean, 8 out of, there's probably going to be at least 1,200 players, so 8 out of 1,200 chances are very low. But my confidence on, I think an other deck could do it. I just don't know if it's out there, but
I think so too. Any day, any deck. Shit, Gruul Leyline probably falls under other too. We definitely any day, any deck. That's for sure. So obviously some allusions to what we will be doing in Minneapolis. We heard Evan loving Jeskai Oculus. And we know from last week Julianne's loving not Jeskai. She's loving her Sea Creatures deck, which definitely
Sea Creatures
into other. I can't remember if you were on Sultai still last time. I think you were, but you're not on Sultai anymore, are you?
Yeah, as of the last recording, I was on Sultai, and then I started having some very noticeable and frustrating mana base issues when I was playing, and my confidence in the deck was kind of dwindling. And then someone in Bologna actually posted on Twitter they won an LCQ with a Simic terror list. So then I moved over to Simic, and I'm really liking it. It feels clean. I don't want to knock on wood, but it feels pretty good into the most played decks that we kind of already talked about. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love seeing, Bologna has had a very real impact on our group, and definitely, seeing the Simic in action, it certainly looks better than the Sultai look, so I'm excited for you, and I'm excited for Evan that kind of Bologna highlighted these two decks for our play group. I'm quite excited for all of us. Ron, what are you cooking over there, man? How's your deck list looking? Are you playing Nick's Leyline list, my Leyline list, our Leyline list? You cooking something? What's going on?
No, I'm I'm gonna go with after a weekend of testing. I'm gonna go with the Nick list. Um, I think it's the way where to be. I like the no overprotect felonious rage ad. Um, that's kind of a fun little twist. Adding haste to a scamp or just it opens up some options that I've appreciated.
Yeah, I like the list a lot. I think we kind of brainstormed and put together a really good sideboard. So I'm excited for you guys. I think the list looks sweet. I'm even a tiny bit jealous that I'm not playing it too, but just a tiny bit because I like my deck a lot. Nick, last we talked, I think you were playing Rakdos Leylineless Leyline Mice. What happened?
Yeah, the more I tested that list, the more I came to the conclusion that if you want to be a Corey Steelcutter deck, you should just play as a Prowess, and if you want to be a Mice deck, probably shouldn't play Mice. But the Callus Celsor, Leylineless Leyline plan was always just better in Leyline. And I'm thankful I played Rakdos Prowess only because I think if I didn't, I would be just playing Manifold Mouse Leyline at the RC. But because I did play it, and I was like, oh, the Swiss Spear card's really good. This Callus Celsor card is really good right now. I was able to kind of I'll say brew up when in reality it's 3 cards different from the deck I won the spotlight with, but I think the list I came to used a lot of the conclusions that I came to after playing the Prowess list. So I'm excited. Leyline always has that degree of variance with it, and while I still think the deck is very powerful and very good, there's a chance of just 0-4 drop. So we'll see what happens.
I don't think there's a chance that you 0-4 drop, but I certainly hear you. I'm very excited that for the second tournament in a row, we have, at the last minute, gotten you to drop Manifold Mouse. That definitely makes me happy, because you were pretty set on the mouse. We actually had divergent leyline lists there for a bit, pretty divergent, and I'm really happy to see you kind of come full circle, and now our lists are the same again, which is really exciting for me. I love the list that you guys have, and we both played Felonious Rage and Rakdos, and it's definitely cool. Is it better than Overprotect? I don't know, or I guess we're gonna find out or something like that. But
yeah,
it's really cool.
The jury's still out for sure, but using Felonious Rage on a Scamp as just like a 2 mana deal 3 to you, like it's like a 2 mana Searing Blaze that leaves a 2/2 behind. It's a nice little play.
You got me with the one of the better moments of playtesting this weekend when I was like, you don't have main deck interaction, so I just play my Slick Shot and deal 1 to you, and you're like, hee hee, Scamp Felonious Rage, kill your Slick Shot, deal 3 to you, make it 2.
Oh yeah.
Like, huh. All right, you do have interaction, and then I said, you won't do it again. Then I'm pretty sure you did it again.
Yeah, and then I think what's funny is I had it the third game as well, but then I missed my second land drop, so it's like almost perfect. But
yeah,
and just to speak to the point a little bit, I do think the reason I inevitably went off of the mouse was just because looking at the current metagame, like there's just so much temporary lockdown right now that the best part about Manifold Mouse is the games where you curve a Heartfire hero into a Manifold Mouse, but that kind of play incentivizes you to just tap out on turn 3 and just lose to a temporary lockdown. So I just think there's more merit right now to trying to do some sort of prowess thing that just plays haste creatures and can get a lot of damage in even without a temporary, even if temporary lockdown ends up coming down.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and you're speaking my language. That was my attitude kind of throughout the whole time where I was on Leyline Prowess, was just like, yeah, play temporary lockdown, it's fine. Like, this deck is really well built to just beat it via play patterns. We don't need paw patch formation or or anything like that. So yeah, I'm excited, and who knows? We'll see how Minneapolis goes. Maybe I play Leyline in Hartford. Um, Jacob, you're not going to Minneapolis. You're going to
I'm
Hartford,
not.
but not Minneapolis. What would you play in
Well,
Minneapolis?
one of the reasons why I'm not going to Minneapolis because the Minnesota Timberwolves are currently up 3-1 on my NBA team, the Lakers. So you wouldn't catch me dead in that city. But
Excellent, excellent. Well said.
really, it's a work thing. Is the reason why I'm not going. But I've been doing testing a lot of decks, and I've been testing the non-blue Pixie decks, so the white, black, and the Abzan decks, which feel very, very well positioned against Is It Prowess, but fall very short against decks like Omniscience and Just Guy Control, and hard control decks. Domain especially is just like such a bad matchup for this deck, so you like really have to dodge. And tried a little bit of mono black demons, which did like pretty well on the first day of the RC over the weekend, but I don't think they converted too well. I think they were like there was a guy who was 6-2 and a guy who was 7-1. But I think if I had more testing on it, I would probably be playing Jeskai Oculus. If not, I would be playing a mono red list that is main decking Sunspine Links. So I would probably be playing 23 lands, and I would be playing 2 main deck Sunspine Links, and then my post board would be more mid-rangey, so still 2 more Sunspine Links, some number of Abrades for the Corey Steelcutter decks, and then probably some number of Chandras. That way I can kind of, beat out the temp lockdowns that I'm expecting, and kind of what Stanley talked about in the last podcast, which playing the number of 3-drops that we have access to now, and Tersa and Screaming Nemesis kind of allows you to fill the gap that you have game 1 versus Temp Lockdown if they're main decking it. So I feel that that's probably the best way to go. You're going to sacrifice a bit of speed, but your absolute worst matchup is probably Jeskai Control and Jeskai Oculus, and the fact that I can just like play a 4-drop that they might take 6 damage off of, or 7 damage, because that's the only reason why I've not been super high on Jeskai Oculus, is I don't love the mana base. It's very similar to the Pixie mana base, where I'm just kind of like, well, I kind of drew the wrong half of the lands, and now I have a bajillion pain lands in play, and I'm playing against mice, and I've taken 3 damage off my lands every single turn. So, whereas like they don't care about taking lands off their Carpulsion Forest or their Sulfur Springs or whatever, right? Or in Izzet's case, Shivan Reef. So that's what I would be on for Minneapolis.
Did I black out, or did you say Chandra at some point?
I did. Didn't black out.
You did. The 4-mana Chandra that makes vehicles?
I like it a lot.
You're usually only playing your red aggro deck, so you don't see the amazing grindy matchup cards that people board in against you. So it's understandable you wouldn't be aware.
Trust me, I wasn't very high on the card when I read it for the first time, but after I've resolved it probably, 50 times now, every time it's entered play against the deck I want it to enter play against, I'd say my win rate's pretty good, because, it kind of protects itself, it has relevant abilities, it's not over-costed, right? Like, if they play a Temp Lockdown and I play a Chandra the next turn, then, okay, I do a thing and you say go, and I'm like, okay, what are you doing now? Because I don't really care. I have a Planeswalker and you don't.
Well, it looks pretty
Stanley
good.
has to read the card right now. I heard the scrolling.
That's definitely what's happening. It looked pretty good in Oculus as like an alternate win condition. I don't think you could ever possibly convince me to register that over a case of the Crimson Pulse, especially when we're already playing 4 Sunspine Links. So playing 4 Sunspine Links and then putting more 4-drops on top of that, like 23 lands isn't even enough at that point. And
I would play one copy of
so
Chandra on my
slow.
sideboard. I'm like, not even like that guy who's like, oh, I'm
Okay.
gonna,
All right. That's
because at this point it's like I've done a lot of testing with Lithomatic Barrage, and the card is not as good in the matchups that I need to be good in as it used to be. So I'm slowly cutting more and more copies of that card from my sideboard, and I've kind of just like convinced myself where it's like you can only do so much of 15 cards. Like if I'm playing 2 copies, I'm probably never going to draw it anyways, so I shouldn't play 1 copy, which means I should play 0 copies. And all in all, it hasn't been that bad because I haven't been. The card that I want to kill the most with it is Kaido, and I have not ran into a lot of Kaidos.
Yeah, I don't think any of us are registering Lithomantic in our sideboard. I cut mine, Nick cut his, Evan's not playing it. Nick, we cut your Lithos, right? You're not on Litho?
Yeah, I have a pretty big hate
Yeah.
relationship with Lithomantic Barrage right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're all really low on it. It's in lists all over, but
I've done more with it to like kill a 1 toughness creature. Like I was playing against Cage the other day, and I just like kill their elf. Like their turn 1 elf, my turn 2. Like get a prowess trigger. I've done more with like trigger my own Emberheart Challenger with like casting barrage on it than I have like kill anything relevant. Because at the end of the day, I think before Dragons it was really for Oculus, but now that you can like play an Oculus profs, put a bajillion counters on it, and now like I'm never killing that card without playing like 3 spells, which is probably like, I don't know, Burst Lightning, Witchstalker's Frenzy, and a Lightning Strike all in the same turn to kill this Oculus. Like it's just not a card that I really care about having, and also I don't care about Beza. Like if you resolve a Beza, who cares? I'm just gonna kill you through it, or I'm gonna lose to it. So
Yeah,
definitely.
I've had a lot of trouble, honestly, trying to understand like why people actually play Lithomantic Barrage. Like, I don't know if it's just like people keep thinking it's good and they just copy lists, or like if there's actually a reason I'm missing. But it's just like against Oculus, like, all their creatures are red besides Oculus, but then Oculus just grows to a 6/6 if like recommission happens or Proft happens. So, like, it doesn't even kill anything in that deck besides like I guess the turn 1 Mako, like you said, like you just kill the 1/1s with it. And it's like, okay, you can play against Jeskai Control, I guess, to kill Biza and Shiko, but is bringing in Lithomantic Barrage to kill those cards actually where you want to be in the matchup? Like,
Nope. Nope.
I, I just
People
don't,
ask me
I
that
just
a
don't
lot.
understand. And like, those are the only 2 decks that exist. Like, I'm not bringing in against Dimir midrange unless I just really want to kill Bat. Like, I don't know. I really don't understand why people are playing it. The one card that I really like that I'm seeing in sideboards, and I'm like validated about it because I thought about it and then I saw people started playing it, and I was like, oh, okay, is Scorching Shot, because I think Scorching Shot is just miles better against Oculus since it actually kills other creatures, but then it's also a card you can reasonably bring in against, the random Golgari mid-range decks, or, even Dimir mid-range as it hits Preacher. Um, so, so yeah, I don't really understand when people are playing Lithomantic when Scorching Shot's a magic card, but,
I know that's a
you do
question I
you.
had for for Stanley. Like I probably like last week I hit him up on Discord and I was like, why are we playing? Like why? Or maybe it's a thought I had. I don't remember if I asked him the question. I can go back through my Discord, but it
Sounds
was
familiar. I do have an answer to the question.
yeah, it was like we're not even sideboarding in Barrage against Oculus, so like why are we playing it? If like Flood Maw is probably just the better card in Is It for like the times that we need that removal spell, or pseudo removal spell. Um, and then also, like, to your point, Nick, I mean, the floor against Oculus is like, what? I kill a Spyglass Siren, or I kill a Steam Core Scholar that they just bring back and get even more props value. Like, no. Like, I can't do
Yeah,
it.
like, I get it, especially because Steam Core Scholar is such a good Prost target. Like, honestly, I like the idea of killing Steam Core Scholar, I guess, but like that's the only card I think I'm like reasonably happy killing in that deck. And like you said, I'm not even happy killing a 2/2 Steam Core Scholar. I just want to kill the 4/4 if it's like, okay, turn 2 Profs, turn 3 Steam Core. But then Squishy Shop does that anyway. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, Spell Pierce is a card, but.
Yeah. So I the reason that I held on to Lithomantic as long as I did, and I am off it, but the main reason is that it just kills everything in the Pixie deck. Like Fear of Isolation or an Optimistic Scavenger that has kind of gone unchecked because I didn't have a removal spell in my opening hand. The thing about the Pixie deck is that, and this is like pre Corey Steel Cutter, um, even post Corey Steel Cutter, like the only way, not the only way, but the main way I lost to that deck was when they were like took the beatdown role and were more aggressive than me. So Lithomantic being able to kill every creature in their deck. If they're on shelter like a Mad Lad, it's able to kill through shelter. If their scavenger got too big, it can kill scavenger. That, I have to assume that the Esper matchup is the reason that Litho lasted as long as it did. And there's also just the random, like, when you're on red, you gotta be able to deal with shelter decks. So, like, Convoke still kind of exists and plays for shelter, and it kills everything in Convoke. So, I don't think it's a precisely bad card, but against Esper, it's such a good matchup now. And for me, in Is It, I have Storm Chaser's Talent, Monstrous Rage, and Corey Steelcutter creating bargainable game objects. So I can just play Torch the Tower, and I don't really need Lithomantic Barrage to kill everything in Esper. It does make me like a little softer to Convoke, but like how much do we really need to worry about Convoke? Famous last words, he's gonna lose to Convoke 3 times next weekend. Um, but those were like the two things that, made me hold on to it as long as I did. But I just don't think it's necessary. Leyline is explosive enough. Red had like Torch the Tower doesn't bargain very well in red, so you do want to not die to pixie stuff, but like Nick was saying, you can just play Scorching Shot. So what's the big deal?
Yeah, that's valid.
So yeah, it wasn't like useless, but it's definitely not something that's overly needed right now. And I didn't talk about my deck, which, of course, I've been on it. Is It Prowess since Aether Drift came out. If you're listening, you probably know that. And man, I'm excited. The lists that are extremely popular have definitely splintered off from mine. People took my list and stuck stock up into it. Even during Aether Drift season. And it's not surprising because Stock Up is a really, really good card. And, now the most popular list has become this really powerful Stock Up Prowess is a deck that runs some flex slots, runs that 3-mana Stock Up, which is one of the most powerful cards in Standard. At some point on coverage, they mentioned that, someone basically said Storm Chaser's Talent, Corey Steelcutter, and Stock Up are 3 of the most powerful cards in Standard. So being able to play all 3 of them in the same deck is kind of a no-brainer. Which, honestly, is the closest I've ever been to going, oh shit, maybe I should play Stock Up in my Prowess deck. Again, like, I'm so locked in for Minneapolis, but I'm open to a lot of possibilities after Minneapolis, depending on how everything goes. But I currently love my list. Unlike the lists that have taken over, I am more red, of course. I'm more aggressive, of course. So instead of playing Stock Up, instead of playing the flex slots, I'm just playing more aggressive red cards to kill my opponent more quickly. So Bolt Wave instead of the flex slots. Bolt Wave has been in my deck the whole time. And then the most fun tech, which I think I talked a little bit at the last podcast. No, I'm sure I did. Is Hearth Elemental. And I remember Nick going, what? And then he fires up Arena while we're still recording. And he sends me a screenshot and is like, Stanley, look at your DMs. This card is crazy. And it really is. I just, why would I spend 3 mana to get 2 cards. Of course, there's selection. I'm not saying stock up is bad. I'm not insane. But I can use Hearth Elemental, spend 2 mana to get 2 cards, and I get typically a 1 mana 4/5. So for the same 3 mana, I can spend my 3 mana across different turns, and I get 3 cards instead of 2. And while I don't get selection, I always get this big, cheap 4/5 that doesn't die to nowhere to run, doesn't get sucked into temp lockdown, and one of the best things about it is it's such a good beater into the hate that's targeted at Izzet. It doesn't get sucked up by lockdown. It doesn't care about high noon. It's still attacking for 4. Or if you put just equip Corey Still Cutter to it, now it's 5 power trample. At one point against Evan when he's crushing me with Oculus, at one point I at least got him to go, whoa, that's cool. When I play my one mana elemental, then I'm like 2 mana equip it, attack you for 5. He's like, oh shit. I wasn't really ready for that. Like Hearth Elemental blocks and attacks like a beast. I love that card. I respect how good Stock Up is, but I have never once thought, man, I wish this Hearth Elemental was a Stock Up. Just like never. Adventures are so good. Getting 3 cards instead of 2 cards is so good. I'm really excited. Could I pivot after Minneapolis to something a little bit different? Yeah, but I really like being the most aggressive deck in the format, and it's not faster than Leyline, but it's really fast. 8 bolts and a bunch of prowess creature kill people exceedingly fast, and the Izzet mirrors are just so favored. It's almost laughable. Of course, every time I say anything, I think, man, I'm gonna eat my words when I go get crushed in Minneapolis. But so far online, be it Moto or Arena, anytime I play against Stock Up Prowess, it just feels so overwhelmingly favored. And like, if you're playing Stock Up Prowess and you're not in my Discord, because if you're in my Discord, you already know not to do this. But don't cast Stock Up on turn 3 against an aggressive deck. Don't do it. You'll die. They die every time. It doesn't even matter. Like, someone was so ahead against me. Their first 2 turns were so much better than me, and I was like, dang, I'm gonna lose because I was on the draw. And then they're like, turn 3, Stock Up, and I'm like, oh, I'm on the play now. You're gonna lose. It's just like, really, really feels good to be good against all the same decks, but then also be good against the mirror. So maybe it will finally be the first time I don't go 6-3 on day 1.
Stanley, I know I sent you a list. Was it earlier today? No, yesterday. The one that did well in the Super Qualifier. I really liked that build. I don't really know how I feel about main decking 4 Torso Towers, but I did really like the 3-1 split of Hearth Elemental and 1 Stock Up, just kind of like hedge a little bit against the slower decks, allow you to get the resources that you actually need versus the fast resources that you get from Hearth Elemental. I also don't know if I'm sold on playing a Stock Up in the board, but I really liked. This is a list though, it's 7-2. Shout out to Rastaf. Rastaf on Twitter, and apparently also on I believe on also on MTGO. But really liked their board. Pretty standard 3 Flood Maw, 3 Spell Pierce, but then they're on Lithomantic Barrage, but they have a singular Pyroclasm, 2 Screaming Nemesis, 2 Sunspine Links, a Row, Crackling Wit, and then a Stock Up. So kind of like boards into more of a mid-range grindy plan, which I would have to test it, but it looks really good on paper to me. And maybe Nick can talk more about Row Crackling Wit. I know he's cast that card a lot more than I have, but seems like a great card in a shell like this.
Yeah, I mean, I like that deck list too. I think it looks good. I think it's, exceedingly logical to say, I'm not going to play Bolt Wave. I'm going to put Flex Slot cards in there. And the downstream impact is like real and good. If you take 4 sideboard cards and replace Bolt Wave with 4 sideboard cards, now you also have 4 more sideboard slots. But for me, I just really like being lean, mean, killing machine. And to be honest, like, my sideboard, I felt like I was done at 14 cards, and I was like, well, I guess I'll put one more Sunspine Links in there, because the card's really good, and it's, like, my best card in my worst matchup. But if I... 4 torches, like, too many, because, okay, now these 4 torches against Jeskai Control are just, like, literally dead cardboard, which is not where I'm comfortable being. But I just don't even know what I would do with the sideboard slots if I had them. But I agree, it's a cool way to build the deck. Play Elemental and stock up. Use your flex slots instead of Bolt Wave. Like, I think almost every version of Is It Prowess is cool. I just love the deck. I love the archetype. I just can't help but be me and start with the most aggressive possible version of the deck and then go from there. It's worked out for me so far. Why stop now? So that's great. One more topic to go for my late night warrior friends who are holding strong. The RC is coming up, and one really cool channel that is very popular in my Patreon Discord, which, like, brief plug, I have a Patreon, I write guides, I do coaching. If you want to get better at red aggro, I would love to help you do that, and there's a lot of ways that we can make that happen. And Discord is a great place to be. It's part of the Patreon package. And as I was creating the Discord, I just thought, what would be really cool? A channel dedicated to tips for paper play and a channel dedicated to tips for digital play. Because there's some really important nuances to both platforms, both, paper play and digital play. And both channels have just been flooded with so many, like, really, really cool top-tier tips. And of course, it's a podcast. These guys are wanting to go to bed soon. We're not going to talk about all of them, but I do want to talk about some paper play tips, because this weekend we've got a regional championship, and it's in paper, and it's really important that when you're playing in paper, you're playing optimally and taking advantage of everything you can. So one thing about these regional championships is their open deck list, which is really cool. I love open deck list. I think all of us love open deck list. We've talked about how cool open deck list is on an episode long ago. But when I'm playing open deck list, the advice that I would give is, first of all, when you look at your opponent's deck list before game 1, don't even look at the sideboard. Don't look at it. Don't look at a single card. I think it's really important to not waste brain power where it isn't needed, because Magic is extremely mentally taxing, and I think you really want to be, conserving your resources and spending them where they're needed. You're going to get to see your opponent's deck list again after game 1, before game 2. So don't look at their sideboard, because you're not playing against their sideboard. You're only playing against their main deck. And, like, nothing good can come out of, like, wasting brain power trying to look at or remember their sideboard. But you can have something bad happen. Because if you look at their sideboard and you go, oh no, they have 4 Authority of the Consuls and 4 High Noon, I'm screwed, I, like, really need to win game 1, otherwise I got no chance. So, like, now you've just put more mental pressure on game 1 that is not needed and not productive at all. And so, like, you've wasted some brain energy on information you don't need yet, and you've, like, potentially intimidated yourself which is just not where you want to be. And so I really strongly recommend for game one, review their main deck, look for the key pieces of interaction or hate that your deck cares about most, and keep those in mind as you're playing. Of course, be calculated and focus your mind on the most important details. Unless you have an eidetic memory or something like Proft, you're not going to be able to remember their whole deck list. So choose that key information that's most important for your deck. Every time I go in, I'm looking for removal spells, I'm looking for counter spells, I'm looking at what's conditional, what's unconditional, and that's going to help me make all my decisions throughout the game. And then going into game two, now I'm going to look at their sideboard and try to figure out, all right, how much worse did this just get for me? And does this affect my sideboard plan at all? Or am I even more favored now because my sideboard plan is better than theirs? But make sure to look at their deck list between each game and be really focused on information relevant to your match, your deck, their deck, and the game that is about to come.
There is one notable exception in Standard with Omniscience or Invasion of Arcavios, where they get stuff from their sideboard in game one.
As a note, most Omniscience lists have moved to the Founding the Third Path River Regent combo, so they don't access their sideboard with that combo in game one, but it is something worth checking if they are on the Founding River Regent game plan or if they're on the Invasion.
I have a question. Do both combos depend on Abuelos resolving for X equals 0?
Yes, that's how they get Omniscience.
Okay, perfect. So I think for the vast majority of decks, you don't really care what happens after that. Make sure your opponent's taking legal game actions and be vaguely aware. But they're gonna combo kill you. I'm either spell piercing Abuelos or I'm not.
The other thing I wanted to mention about deck lists specifically, when you are reviewing them, there's a lot of cards that have 2 names attached to them. There's omens, adventures, rooms, etc., etc. And on the printed deck list, for some reason, only one half of that card will be named. So, for example, Meringue River Regent / Coil and Catch might just be named as Meringue River Regent. So that's just something to keep in mind. And as always, if you have any questions regarding any cards, what they do, what they say, when you're reviewing the deck list, everyone knows it's an open deck list tournament, so there's absolutely no harm in asking. Everyone should feel very comfortable asking, because if your opponent says no, then you can either call a judge and get the text, or you can even look it up on your phone, because the whole deck list is right there. So there should be no hidden information in that regard.
Yeah, most opponents will just, show you the card. If they've already shuffled 7 times, they probably won't want to, so just call a judge, ask for text. Really, good stuff to remember, for sure.
I don't want to have to be the one to say it, but if you're playing against Omniscience and it does involve them accessing their sideboard, make sure they are grabbing a card that is in the 75 of their deck list, and it's not a random card that they put in their sideboard just in case to try and win a game of Magic. I hope that doesn't happen to anyone. I hope you don't run in that situation. I hope no one puts you in that situation, but there's been quite a few things that have been going on recently in the community which are not fair play, and I don't want to see or hear about anyone getting put in a precarious situation because it's uncomfortable and it's not a situation that people get put in a lot in their life, and it's just don't put someone in that situation. And if it does happen, call a judge immediately and let them resolve it. If it requires you to step away from the table because of X, Y, and Z emotion, that's the human response. You're more than welcome to do so. Tell a judge, and it will be resolved. And if you don't like how it's resolved, keep bringing it up until the highest person tells you that's how it's being resolved.
Yeah.
In general, if you feel uncomfortable with anything, call a judge. It is your right to ask a judge any question at any time. They are there to help you. You can step away from the table if you don't want your opponent knowing. You can ask for time extensions if they don't immediately give you one. But in a high stakes tournament like an RC where there's a lot of players, your opponent does not have your best interest at heart. Defend yourself and call a judge if anything seems weird.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm still definitely lax on, but need to like actively remind myself at major tournaments is like put some non-zero effort into making sure your opponent isn't cheating. I'm like very guilty of just kind of focusing on playing my game, and I think there's tons of spots where my opponents could pretty easily do something as simple as like draw two cards instead of one or anything like that. So it's not Arena making sure that everything is fair and legal. It's not Moto making sure that everything is fair and legal. You need to make sure that your opponent is playing fair and legal Magic, and you also need to make sure that you're playing fair and legal Magic. And if you accidentally look at an extra card when you're drawing a card because it falls off, just call a judge, tell a judge, they'll fix it. But you know, it's between you and your opponent to make sure that a fair and legal match of Magic is happening, and it's really important to, be vigilant as to that part of the game. And if at any point you're not sure, call a judge. Nick, you got any paper play tips?
I didn't hear the last thing you said, but
Paper play tips.
paper play tips. My favorite quote is spend more time trying to hone in your play than your last sideboard slot. There's a lot of tournaments I played where I feel like I'm playing a 8-card sideboard, and I've unironically only brought in like 8 cards in my sideboard, but that doesn't matter as much as like me outplaying my opponents and things like that. So, while it's less of a paper play and more like a general Magic play tip, just try to play your best game of Magic more so than spending time thinking about that last sideboard slot you're going to play, because that time could be used practicing your deck, building a sideboard guide, or just more importantly, eating a good meal and getting some sleep the night before. So, it's someone said it, I forget, maybe it was even someone in your Discord, Stanley, but someone was like, we're athletes, right? Like, Magic players are athletes. Like, we're playing a sport, it's important to like train your mind just as much as it is to, play your game, right? So
Yeah, it was probably my man Hsiale. I don't know, Hsiale. He'll bully me later for not being able to pronounce it, but he is on top of me about like, Stanley, you should probably go to sleep now. Like you're gonna need to sleep good before this tournament. Practice now. Absolutely, like play. Paper play tip number 1 for sure. Like, get good sleep before the tournament. Eat a banana before the tournament. Like, take care of yourself.
Like on that same point, just about like taking care of yourself too. Like, don't worry. It's hard not to worry. The night before a big event and try not to psych yourself up. But at 6:01 p.m. when after deck lists are due, which deck lists are due Friday, 6 p.m. Minneapolis time. Get your deck list in on time. Do not be that person who has to
I'm gonna
bother
right
Jared
now.
to get your deck list in.
Oh yeah.
We're all better than that. Anywho, after you submit your deck list, I mean, that's it. It's locked. You have worked hard preparing for this. Don't take, from 6:01 to 10 p.m. or whenever you decide to go to bed. Like, don't worry stressing about that. Just take care of yourself, get a good dinner, make sure you're packed, make sure your alarm is set, make sure, you've got your comfy pillow, your comfy blanket, and just focus on yourself, because at that point, the magic part of things is over. Until the next day.
I really like Julianne's point, and it kind of leads into like my number one piece of advice, and it's also like a life thing in general. It's like you can't cheat yourself, right? So if you put in the preparation and you know that you worked hard and like you X4 drop, like it happens, right? Like it's a game, variance is a thing, right? Don't beat yourself up because of the loss. Also, if you're making a deep run and you take a loss late, don't let it affect you. Recollect, prepare for the next match, right? Because if you take that negative energy into the next match, like it is going to affect your play, and you're going to there's going to be consequences most likely because of it. So try to keep an open mind, play to your best ability, compartmentalize, but like take care of yourself, right? Like it's all a mental game. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Like you gotta give yourself as many legs up as possible. It's a big reason why I like playing very aggressive decks in long tournaments, because like it gives me those extra minutes in between rounds to recollect myself and figure out what I'm doing. And also something to keep in mind, like making it to the regional championship is an accomplishment in itself, right? Playing Magic is an accomplishment in itself, right? Like you're going out actively and like talking with strangers and playing a game that connects all of us. So like be proud that you made it that far, even if you don't do too well, right? Like so, and maybe the next time will go better, right? Like I mean, my last RC I went like 4-5, or I think it 3-4 drop, right? Some very very bad luck when I was like finally getting myself out of the hole, but I usually use my RCs when I'm doing poorly. It's a good time to catch up with friends that I haven't seen in a while, eat some good food, have some good laughs, and just like play the game I enjoy playing. So that's what it really is for me.
And at Jacob's point too, like the last RC, like I went 2-4, did terribly, bad luck as well. And on Sunday, I played Mystery Booster 2 Sealed, which I had never done before. And it was one of those things where I decided to play that instead of the 10K or the 5K or whatnot, because I wanted to play Magic just to play Magic. At the end of the day, like we're playing this game to have fun. So keep that in mind and put yourself in positions where, no matter what, you are having fun and you can look back on it as a good time.
For sure. I could not agree more. It'd be hard to disagree with any of those points, honestly.
The thing that one of the things, Stanley, that I would say that was, because as you guys know, Charlotte was my first RC experience actually playing in the RC, and one of the things that's kind of overwhelming is playing in an event that has nearly 1,300 competitors, right? So you kind of got to get away from that. There's just this chaos and this cacophony of noise, and one of the things that'll stick with me, for a long time is when they announced the pairings for the first round, and I stood up to go walk and find my table, and like I couldn't move because there were there were like 1,200 people all trying to walk between the tables and find their way, and everybody was in a hurry, so it's just take in the experience, but don't be overwhelmed by it. You know what I mean? It would have been very easy to get overwhelmed by the craziness of it all. And, I had to make like a mental effort to not be just overwhelmed by it, having never been in that kind of situation.
Yeah, very, very, very true. Very, very true.
Yeah. To all of your points, it's very helpful to just focus on playing one game at a time because that's all you can do. Worrying about last round you punted, worrying about post sideboard it's going to get a lot worse, worrying about your placement in the 1300 players. None of that matters as much as just the game that you're sitting in right now because that's all you can worry about and change. So just focus on what you're doing at the moment, and you can worry about all that other stuff later.
Yeah, I can definitely get on board with that. And don't miss your triggers. Don't do it. just don't do it. If
I'll
you're
do my
not,
best.
if you're not 100% sure about the precise timing of any of your triggers, now is a really good time to ask a trusted friend, mentor, or Magic player who knows how your deck and cards work. And so you can understand precisely how to communicate your triggers and how to stack your triggers and all that stuff. Magic has definitely gotten more complicated, not less complicated. And communicating those things can be hard. A big topic with Leyline is like, all right, so I cast this spell and I have 7 triggers. What do I say to my opponent? Like how do I enunciate, like, okay, I'm going to cast Turn Inside Out, targeting Heartfire Hero. I have 7 triggers to put on the stack. First, I'm going to put these 2 Leyline triggers on the stack. Then I'm going to put this Valiant trigger on the stack. Then I'm going to put these 3 Prowess triggers on the stack. Like, chaos is reigning. So, like, being very clear and concise helps everyone, especially you, because you don't want to be accused of mistriggers or anything like that and get into those ordeals. So make sure you not only know how to play your deck, but how to communicate clearly and accurately and how to use the stack and all that stuff.
Also, a big thing is like your clear and concise communication is not the same as everyone else's, right? So respect if your opponent doesn't understand completely what you're doing. And if you need a mediator, that's what a judge is for. Call a judge over, explain your side, see if the judge can explain a way that your opponent understands, or because like you don't want anything to be on either side to be misconstrued as anything, right? So
Mm-hmm.
just play your game how you see it, but not everyone comes from the same walk of life. Not everyone was taught, brought up the same way. So if you think you explaining is correct and they don't understand, then that's okay. That's perfectly fine. But it is your job as a good opponent to find the correct way for them to understand that what you're doing is a legal game action, that you're doing it in the correct way, and you're both will be better for it at the end of the day once the whole misunderstanding is resolved. So just do your due diligence and just keep an open mind because not everyone is built the same, not everyone thinks the same way. I like doing a lot of visual things, especially like I don't have to represent my prowess triggers until like some damage based action happens, right? But I still do it because it's good for my opponents, right? And some people will say
Don't do
like
that.
yeah, but some people will be like, well, I would have done this had I seen your prowess trigger. Well, it's like I like being very I like there being no ambiguity between me and my opponent. And sometimes it's for me, like I know when I play modern, I'll put like a thing like don't mesh my bobble trigger if I'm playing with Mishra's bobble or
Yeah,
anything weird like that.
IPG 2.1 is going to cover you on those prowess triggers. Don't need to be announced. If you can't personally keep track in your head, that's fine. Use dice. But prowess triggers, you do not need to. represent
Nope.
with dice?
You do not.
I would not, unless you need them for you, which is fine. But there's like no reason in an RC to give away that kind of like information for free. Don't do that. But to go back to your other point, like if you and your opponent are not on the same page about anything, the sooner you just say, "Hey, let's just call a judge," and like call the judge, the better. The like if you guys aren't on the same page, the longer the two of you try to get onto the same page, it's likely just going to get more contentious, which is exactly where you don't want to be. So definitely a good point from Jacob that like if you and your opponent aren't on the same page, it's not a big deal. You don't have to be like, I'm gonna call a judge. They're gonna explain it to you. Just be like, that's okay. Let's just call a judge and get it sorted out. And then you call a judge. Call a judge at a reasonable volume. Don't scream like you've just been shot. But the sooner you just like say, hey, a judge will just sort it out for us, the better.
I do want to speak to Jacob's point a little bit, though, and the reason why is just because I do think there's a real difference between, the ambiguity and also just, like, your opponent making a misplay, right? I remember in my win-in for the Spotlight, a bunch of my friends gave me shit because in my win-in match, my opponent got a +1/+1 counter on my slick shot confused with a stun counter. And he made a horribly awful play because he thought it was a stun counter for some reason. And so then he kind of like articulated that point to me, and I was like, oh, okay, I mean, no worries, we can go back and redo blocks then. Why did my opponent think it was a stun counter instead of a +1/+1 counter? I'm not really sure, but the play was just so awfully bad that I was like, yeah, I mean, no worries, people make mistakes, like, we can go back. And then I remember, rewatching my win-in match, and Twitch chat was going crazy, like, this guy's too nice. And then I also, when I finished the match, I got, like, 3 different DMs from friends who were like, you're way too nice for that. But, like, I don't know, I would rather win a game of Magic with my opponent making a true misplay, or, like, me outplaying them, than, like, them losing the game because, oh shit, I had a brain fart,
That's crazy. I did not know that.
Oh yeah, you're probably you're probably playing your 10K.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
Stop bullying me.
I
Oh
love
my god!
that.
I did not know.
Wow.
I'm very big on like, I love like true games of Magic where, like both decks are firing on all cylinders and like you're back and forth, right? And like I like winning games where like I know, like I got them. Right, that was me, and I don't want to win a game because like some stupid reason that like my opponent like screwed up, like, and I don't know, maybe I'm too nice, but I think it's also the energy that your opponent gives off too. Like if your opponent's giving good energy, like why not give the same good energy back, right?
Yeah,
don't know.
mean, to be clear, if my opponent puts out dice, I'll just like, yeah, bro, we'll like organize the board state. However, like, you cannot lie to your opponent. You can never give bad information. Prowess triggers are missable if you like do your math wrong because you're like, yeah, Stanley said don't use dice, and then you do the math wrong and miss a prowess trigger. Like that's on you. So it's like not without risk, but like it's not shady or anything to that effect. To just like cast your spells, trigger your Corey Steel Cutters, attack, and go to damage. And none of that affects the visual board state. It's very clear within the IPG that like I don't need to say I have 4 prowess triggers every time I cast a spell. And I'm not going to. Like, I'm making those calculations all throughout the tournament. It's like mental load is a big part of it. Like, Magic is a very mental game. So if my opponent wants to keep track with a physical object, that's fine. I'm going to give them accurate information all throughout. But I ain't bringing dice out. Ain't no shot I'm putting dice on the board or anything like that. Like, I'll have my permanents organized because now we have this interesting thing with Corey Steel Cutter where you have, like, now more than ever, you have like creatures seeing different numbers of prowess triggers. So, what I would recommend is like kind of group your creatures together based on how many prowess triggers they've seen, so that you kind of know which group saw what. And then the other thing you can do is put your spells that trigger prowess into the graveyard in like a distinct separate spot, so you can very clearly see like these three on top that are kind of fanned over each other are the three spells I cast this turn. Doesn't work with like Corey Steel Cutter and Storm Chaser's Talent, which stays on the board. So again, if you're having a crazy turn, break out the dice, keep track, don't miss any of your triggers. But standard affair, just play Magic.
Yeah. Also keep track of your opponent's triggers too.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like make sure that they're doing the like if their card says they have to do this thing, like up the beanstalk, for example, right? Like if you're playing a mill deck and you're keeping track of what's in their library, and you know that if they draw that card off up the beanstalk, they're gonna lose the game. You make sure they draw the card, right? Like if they cast a spell that triggers up the beanstalk, it triggered. It's not a May ability. They have to do it. Now I will say that there is a card in standard for all you Jeskai Oculus players that is a May ability. You do not have to discard a card to this new pseudo lightning strike or whatever. I don't know.
Dragon Hunt.
Yeah, Dragon Hunt, right? So if you just want to draw a card, draw a card. You don't have to discard anything, and it says, I believe, non-land. If you discard a non-land is when you get the trigger for 3 damage. So make sure you're sequencing properly and doing what you need to with your cards. Reading the card explains the card, and if you doesn't explain the card, ask a judge.
Yep. All right. We are closing in on the 90-minute mark. We definitely got to wrap this thing up. Otherwise, all my friends are going to unfriend me. Quick note on the prowess thing. You're going to play against prowess next weekend. So if your opponent's not using dice, which they shouldn't be, prowess players, don't use dice unless you really, really have to. If you're playing against prowess, break out dice. Ask them, how many prowess triggers do you have? Just like ask questions and stay apprised. Don't block badly because you weren't keeping track. Be communicative, talk to them about it, and make sure you know how many prowess triggers are on what creatures.
I just want to say like one last closing note. I'm going to throw back to a lesson we probably all learned in kindergarten. Treat others the way that you would like to be treated. We're all there for the same thing. We all want to win. Be respectfully competitive. And yeah, just take care of yourself. Get snacks, get drinks, and you treat others well and they'll treat you well back.
Fair Magic is fun magic. All these tips, make sure your opponent doesn't cheat, make sure this, make sure that. None of that can stop you from having a good, fun, respectful time. I couldn't agree more. We're not gonna all show up and be assholes, that's for sure. Any other closing notes? All right, well, thanks everyone. This was fun. If you're playing this weekend, good luck. If you're playing sometime later than this weekend, good luck there too. Like, follow, subscribe, do all that cute stuff. Supporting the show helps us. We appreciate you for listening this long, and cue the outro music.